Molweni nonke babukeli bethu kaMpumakaba TV channel 216 nanku head to toe with Dr. T. Siyabulela baphinde nisijoyine namhlanje sithetha noThabisa Mbiza occupational therapist. Uzasicacisela uba yintoni leyo igama ekhumshileyo occupational therapist. Guest yethu yanamhlanje is gonna take us through a lot of issues kakhulu sijonge ebantwaneni nethemba nento abazali nabantwana babukele ngomdla kakhulu so that xa sidibana nezinto singacingi siyazi into yoba zikhona ii-professionals ezidilishana nezinto. Uzithabisa?
UThabisa Mbiza, ndi-occupational therapist. Ndizalelwe kwidolophu encinci ekuthiwa kuseQala. Ndakhulela eKhumani, ndifunde e-high school yam Cathcart High School, and then ndahamba ndayofunda eKapa University of Western Cape. That is where I qualified as an occupational therapist.
Ungathethi ngathi uzawuthandaza. Western Cape, how was it at Western Cape?
It was a big culture shock. First of all, uhlale eKhumani, zange ndabona amakhaladi amaninzi ngalaa ndlela elifeni yam, and the way they do things was quite different from abantu endikhule nabo, like the colored community that I grew up around. But it was nice overall. It was a nice experience. I think iKapa is also nice and laid back. It allows you to study, and then you also it also allows you to explore other things, because yonke into that you are looking for is within the city. If you are looking for outdoors, you still find it within the city. So it was quite a nice place to be.
And then occupational health, I'm looking at a student or a child who's watching us. What are the requirements? What is it? What is occupational health? What does it entail, and what kind of subject does one need to be excellent at?
Okay, occupational therapy doc. Funeka ube nayo life science.
Okay.
Physics is beneficial because you'll do it again in varsity. In maths as well, so it can be pure maths or maths literacy, but you have to get quite high marks on maths literacy for qualify.
Okay.
Yes.
And how many years does it take?
It's a 4-year degree, and you graduate with your honors.
Wonderful. And then on Western Cape, wafumana degree yakho, what happened?
I applied for you get 4 options. I think it was 4 options for a community service placement yakho. And of all the 4 options, ndazibona ke senzoplacewa apha kwi-district apha eBhayi for a community service. So iComserve yam ndenze eTinarha kwi-clinic phaa ekuthiwa kuseLetitia Bam. So sasine rehabilitation center phaa kuthiwa kuseMabandla Rehab. So that's where I started, and ndafunda from other OTs that I worked with, and I decided to uhlala eBhayi because I just felt eBhayi is like a mini Cape Town. So I loved it here, so ndaphela ndihlala apha.
Wonderful. So you're practicing privately in PE?
I'm currently practicing privately in PE. Ndiqale 2016.
Okay.
Ndisebenza practice at Mercantile Hospital.
I see.
And then I also have my rooms at 169 up at Kempston Road, up at Bai.
So do you get to see in-hospital patients?
I see in-hospital patients as well as out-hospital patients.
What do you do?
In-hospital, mostly...
Occupation. And then therapy.
Yes, in hospital mostly it's patients that abasokolayo ukwenza izinto ebekade bekwazi uzenza, like day-to-day tasks. For instance, a patient who has had a stroke, siyayazi stroke, it tends to affect the one side of the body. Icala lomzimba libe weaker than the other, which we call hemiplegia.
Yeah.
And then apho ke ngoku kufuneka siba exercisise, fundise. Also while sisenza as exercises nabo fundise ezinye indlela ezintsha zokwenza izinto i-daily tasks zabo. without usebenzisa elinye icala eli lingakasebenzi kwangoko. So sibafundisa indlela ezintsha, okanye umuntu uzawusokola ngoba xa unxibayo sowuqhele usebenzisa izandla zombini uyanxiba, ngoku nengalo eyi-one uzawukwenza njani?
Yeah.
Abanye abantu ke xa bengafundiswanga ezi zinto umntu uya ancame aphele diphenda kwabanye abantu uba makanxityiswe ngoku
omnye ngathi
makenziswe
azibulale for that
yonke
matter, athi
into.
ndandiqhela usebenzisa iingalo
Uyayibona?
zombini suddenly ndizawuphila ubomi obunjani ndinengalo engasebenziyo and so
Injalo.
on after the accident.
Injalo ke doc. So sibe sibafundisa ezinye indlela of how to do ezi tasks. Sibenzele lula if kufuneka umuntu afumane assistive device okanye bekade ekwazi uphakama athathe izinto ezikwi-height ephezulu, simfunele assistive device that they can use, into ezawukwazi ukubamba ezaa zinto eziphezulu zize kuye and then enze like unxiba ke oko, okanye ufuna uthatha iimpahla ezikwi-higher shelf. Also neza hand function, because i-stroke sometimes it affects i-hand function. Okanye ingalo iyasebenza nje kancinci, ikhona nje i-strength esashiyekileyo, but now asikho strong enough to pick things up. So that's where we come in to do hand function exercises so that esasandla siphinde sibe stronger and be able to pick things up, akwazi ukwenza ezinye izinto.
So umuntu oqhawukelwe iminwe, mhlawumbi uqhawukele le minwe iyi-3, so nina niyamtreyina into bakwazi usebenzisa le minwe eyi-2 for uqhubekeka nobomi.
Kanjalo.
How difficult is that? How depressive is that?
Not for us, but firstly we work with the emotional aspect. Try and adjust the person. Ayazi uba akuphelelanga apho ubomi, uyayibona, and it's completely up to them uba bazawuphinde bakwazi uba independent in the future. So when you give them ezo words uba le nto ixhomekeke ku mna, I'm just with you for 5% of your journey yakho, 95% you're on your own. So you have, it's either you're gonna take what I teach you so that ukwazi uphinde ube independent okanye uzayeka. So but independence yakho is completely up to you, and most patients, they're quite motivated to try.
Wonderful.
You know, and it also depends on which fingers does the person lose, because if you lose the thumb, the hand is basically useless if you say you left with 2 fingers lena, uyayibona kunzima ukwenza izinto njalo. So that's where we come in and do dominance retraining, whereby we train the non-dominant hand for them to use as the dominant hand. So zininzi nje indlela asenza ngazo i-therapy.
I know your greatest interest and work is in children. We're going to take a break and then we dive into kids. Stick to your screen and then we're going to be more on children. Placement of kids in schools, assessments and so on. That's what she does mostly, on top of what she has actually mentioned. See you soon. Welcome back. Thank you for staying on with us. And we have got our guest, our lovely Thabisa Mbiza, our occupational therapist. Occupational therapist ke ngabantu abajonga abantu xa sefuneka bebuyele emsebenzini babelimele then balungise i-functionality usebenza kwamalungu aseleyo, but ngoku we're going to look into umsebenzi awenzayo ebantwaneni. Wenzani ngabantwana?
Doc, most of the time abantu xa becinga occupational therapist bacinga occupation, bacinga paid occupation. But then
abantu mna ukutrekha nabazawusebenza imachinery ezithile xa funeka bebuyele emsebenzini emva kwe-stroke. So ebantwaneni wenzani?
So occupational therapy, it focuses on what you do daily. So with abantwana, imisebenzi abayenzayo daily, masiqale from abantwana ababancinci. Their occupation is mostly play. Bayadlala, that's how they learn. That's how they interact with the environment around them. They learn new skills, but develop skills, but develop a balance, but develop uba mabakwazi ubaleka nge-speed, bakwazi slower down when they have to. So with abantwana, we look at the developmental milestones. We start with infants, looking at if they are meeting milestones zabo ngexesha eli right. Umntana siyayazi ba at 6 months they're supposed to start sitting, go 8 months suppose uyakhasa, at 12 months, around 12 months suppose sebeqalile uhamba, 2 years bayathetha and they've started with the potty training, and so on and so forth. So sometimes abantwana they lag behind kwezi developmental milestones, and most of the times parents umuntu uzaxelela uba notata khe wayecothile uhamba, uyayibona, okanye ingathi into enormal,
awaqinga kade kwawise,
uyayibona,
amazinyo apha ekhaya
aphuma kade, of which ezo zinto it doesn't just affect umntana ngoku, it keeps them behind from i-development kwabanye abantwana abakwi-age yakhe. And it doesn't just end there, it also affects them now when they get to school.
Okay.
Sometimes aba bantwana ke abanye khange badevelope at the right time, ngeza nyanga zi-right, at the right age, they met all of their developmental milestones, but then babe besokola esikolweni. We've been getting quite a lot of referrals ke ngoku from teachers ezikolweni uba nanku umntana uyasokola ubhala, nanku umntana uyasokola ubamba ipencil, sometimes izinto nje simple ezinjalo, i-handwriting yakhe imbi. Zizinto that are supposed to sound alarms for abazali ba ikhona into erongo. Xa ezawusokola okanye kuthiwe akagqibi yena ubhala eklasini, that means there's something wrong with umntana. Akayigqibi yena i-test okanye unid extra time, that means ikhona pha sokolayo. So sisebenza ke together with i-audiologist apho bazabatesta indlebe to see if umntana uyeva kakuhle, uyazibamba instructions azinikwayo ba nanku umsebenzi yenza oko. Sisebenze as well with i-optometrists as well, because sometimes umntana it's simply because they can't see, abayiboni laa nto ibhalwe phaa ebhodini, then aphele yena ehleli okanye engawenzi umsebenzi okanye umjonga kwa indlela abhala ngayo encwadini, omnye ubuso buzawuba lapha encwadini, and then you can already see ba ikhona i-problem. Abanye umntana uthe bhala enjalo but akakwazi uhlala apha, ufuna ungqengqa yena edeskini xa ebhala, meaning there's a problem with the tone, akakwazi uzigcina apha. Isisu sakhe uyadinwa yena xa ehleli sitting up. So zizinto that we look at as the occupational therapist, to do these assessments to find out what could be affecting the child from progressing esikolweni, from reacher meter requirements zesikolo to proceed over to the next grade. And we do interventions ke apho sizobanika therapy, sinika abazali izinto funeka zenzise yena umntana ekhaya kwenzela uba azawuqhubekeka naye bancedisane noomisi, because sometimes it's not just about the school, also it's about what we do at home with abantwana. Abanye abantwana basadlali, umntana ubuya esikolweni uhlala phambi kwe-TV, yi-PlayStation. That means i-gross motor ayizodevelopha, ii-muscles zakho ezinkulu zomzimba azidevelophi ngendlela njengomnye umntana obezawuphuma esikolweni abaleke phandle, akhabe ibhola, anyuke isihla. It strengthens ii-muscles zakhe leyo umntana. And then lona umntana ke ngoku ungadlaliyo uzawufika esikolweni abesokola, uyadinwa xa funeka ehleli ixesha elide, uyadinwa xa funeka econcentrate-ile, uyasokola nakwisport, akakwazi udlala isport. It affects umntana in a lot of different ways, Doc.
Yeah, that's a lot of things. I'm looking and thinking as you are talking. So kukwicala lasesikolweni where teachers can observe some of these behaviors, then kube kwicala le parent.
Yes.
Where are you getting most of your cases? Are we easy as parents to pick up as in?
We are getting most of our cases from the school. I-parents most of the time, even when they bring abantwana, isekhona la denial yoba umntana makho into erongo ngomntanam, andiyazi noba kutheni isikolo simzisa apha.
Yeah.
But then once we start doing i-intake nomzali, sisenza la interview yokuqala, simbuza ngee-patterns zomntana endlini, unjani endlini, kube ngonathi hayi mani into ethile akakwazi ubopha imitya yakhe, siyamnxibisa, akakwazi unxiba impahla yakhe, iskipa sakhe okanye iyasirivesa sijonge ngemva and akaziboni ezo zinto. So kube ngona ayibonayo uba hayi mani ikhona into erongo apha. Sometimes iba zii-behavioral issues, ezi zinto umntana you find that ziyam-affecta esikolweni. umzali uziphicaphile naye endlini but acinge uba hayi uyatefa umntana.
Yeah.
But umntana, it's just that they don't want to do that. Esikolweni kuthiwe akawugqiba umsebenzi wakhe, endlini xa funeka enze homework nomzali angafuni ukwenza homework. Uyayibona, umzali uzayithatha ngoba yho uyadikwa ziincwadi. But then ikhona into erongo, ikhona into emenza angafuni ukwenza la homework, noba akaboni kakuhle okanye uyasokola ukhipha up with i-sequence yezinto ezazifundayo. So kuba nzima kakhulu for abazali uba ba-identifye bona endlini bazise. It's a few parents that actually do that.
That reminds me of one thing. Ikhona into eyayisenzeka ezilalini, kufumanisa uba kukho abantwana ekuthiwa zizidodo, kuthiwe lo mntana zizidodo, then kuthiwe makathathwe asuke ixhawuzana elithile awolunya amadolo. How efficient is that? And as someone who grew up in rural areas, have you ever heard of that? Now, as a professional, are you able to confront such issues? Is there any sense in doing that?
I don't think there's any sense, Doc. I think even if ulunyiwe loo madolo uzawuhamba ngelaa xesha ebezawuhamba ngalo kakade. Unfortunately zange ndadibana naleyo into, but abantwana into yoluma amadolo hayi andiyibona isenzeka uba uzawuhamba. Uba bezawuhamba 2 months from now.
Delayed milestones. Lo mntana ushiyekele ezintangeni zakhe. I mean, there is that observation, but maybe abayazi mhlawumbi abantu bakho abantu abanjengawe who are actually trained as professionals to handle and deal with those things.
Yes, Doc, definitely.
Do you have outreaches in rural areas, educating and empowering parents? But there is a service like this, there is a profession like this is what we do because we're noting in Doba picture abantwana.
We do have outreaches, and especially now, let's say in the last decade, our government has done quite an amazing job of bringing the rehab services to rural areas.
Before you go deeper into that, we're going to take a short break so that we have a sip of water, and then we shall go back into how you integrate your services with the rural areas and the government and so on, so that kids benefit from the program. Stick to your screen. We'll be back shortly. Thank you for listening. This is not only for you, for your relatives, for your siblings, for everyone who may not have been watching, but this is life and this is health. Welcome back. We're sitting with our occupational therapist, uThabisa Mbiza. Uthethile ngentoba umsebenzi wakhe kulungisa isimilo sengqondo nomzimba for intoba umuntu alunge ngale ndlela intsha ayiyo for uba akwazi uqhubeka nobomi. But sijonge umcimbi wabantwana, sabona uba utishala nabazali banako uqaphela intoba lo mntana uyasilela entweni ethile, akazigqibi ii-homeworks, uyathanda udlala, njalo njalo. Zonke ezi zinto kuye zinika i-meaning ethile professionally. And ke ngoku eyona nto sikuyo intoba abanye abazali banako ungaziqapheli, deske umntana abe kanti ubethakele ushiyeke kakhulu ezintangeni zakhe kanti ngekwenziwe i-intervention in good time. Thank you very much. We're talking about government reaching out in rural areas and assisting the public services so that people can access your services and your skill. Busatu government wenza ntoni in terms of?
Government has done projects ezininzi. Before, it used to just be the Department of Health that was doing as outreach. Now, it's been so amazing because the Department of Education has also joined in.
Wonderful.
So they're focusing more on schools. They're focusing on what we were talking about. So they do a lot of outreach to rural schools, coming up with interventions, placing also EOTs at schools, because now you get an occupational therapy at a private
school.
Yes,
oh, that's wonderful.
In public, which had previously been for private schools, you know. So Zikoni OTs, both for rehab and as well as for iskolo, like scholastic activities. So government has come on board.
Are you capable of doing anything for abantwana ukuthi low learners?
Yes, we come in, we work with 8 teachers ezisebenza with special needs, abantwana bane special needs. We work with them, we come up with interventions. We work quite hand in hand with bona to get them to catch up at school. And most kids that go through occupational therapy, they end up succeeding. They go to varsity. You know, it's all about just about umntana abe picked up at an early age, even if same dal, but we can try and sibenzele intervention that's going to be specific for them to help push them and for them to get to varsity, because I think a lot of the time, or even now, sinabantwana besestratweni abaninzi abasokola esikolweni. Umntana usokole wasokola wade wayeka
What
wancama,
about?
uyayibona, gets into drugs okanye aye estratweni ayobheka. That's how ababantwana, they end up falling through the cracks, because previously we didn't have these interventions, but now we have, and we are working quite hard, working together with the government.
Wonderful. There's something that is troubling us as professionals, also as parents, especially in the primary care setting. Isiba high inamba yabantwana abane-autism. Isiba high and high number yabantwana abane-ADHD. Are you also dealing with some of those issues?
Yes, we do deal with that.
Do you notice the trend in terms
There
of numbers?
is. It's quite high. It's getting higher.
What is it that we're doing wrong?
I am not sure. I think I caught enough research out there, but it's quite high. It's alarming actually, because education system yet was not built to accommodate ababantwana, uyayibona. And umntana autistic, you can't just go, izikolo esinazo thina zezabantwana with physical disabilities, uyayibona. Ngoku uzawuthatha umntana autistic uyomfaka phayana, and then it's not a good fit. And izikolo zethu to accommodate autistic children, we got quite few, and mostly they are private schools. And it's it's very expensive. It's quite expensive. So umzali odepende kwi-social grant, umntana wakhe uzawuphelela phi? Uzawuphelela estratweni, because esikolweni mainstream school, they're not gonna fit phayana, bazawusokola, they're gonna be behind, bazawuba badala eklasini, iphele i-education system ibaphase out, ibakhupha, uyayibona. So it's something that government definitely needs to look at, and bazame ukwenza more schools.
How do you treat them? Do you give drugs, or what kind of therapy? For example, if you were talking to me about HIV or no, we give pills, we give injection, we talk the brain out of this thing and so on.
Yeah.
What do you do with you said even a child as early as they cannot sit and so on.
Yeah.
Those kids can't communicate. It's only the parents. So how do you effect your treatment?
Okay, like treatment, we base it on the age and stage. If umntana osemncinci, masithi the infant, we know infant umsebenzi wakhe kudlala. So our therapy will be mostly based around play, while we are trying to develop ezo skills that we want the child to have.
Okay.
And then as they get older, it masithethe about autism lo uthetha ngayo.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids, they're struggling with the light. Sometimes it's the sound. Sometimes they baba sensitive to it's autism. That's why kuthiwa is a spectrum. They don't present the same way.
Yeah.
Each child is different. So you assess and see what the child struggles with. Is it tactile? Is it touch? Abafuna ubanjwa? Is it the lights? Is it the noise? And then you'll find ways, and then you come up with interventions to address low sensitivity umntana nayo. Ikhona into ekuthiwa yi-sensory integration, siyibiza i-SI. So sensory integrative therapy, whereby we try to integrate those senses zabo to desensitize them from ezi zinto ezinye ba-sensitive kuzo, okanye to limit exposure to ezi zinto abantwana bangakwazi udila nazo. So that's part of our intervention and therapy.
Then on the side of parents, how easy is it for parents to, because one thing we pick up as primary health care practitioners is that some parents are struggling to accept that this kid has got autism, this kid has got ADHD. On your side as an occupational therapist, how vast is the problem of parents who are failing to accept that this child is challenged in this area,
Yeah, it's quite difficult. it's quite prevalent to find parents abangakhophiyo. First of all, sometimes you umntana uyakhopha yena, but it's the parent that is not in tune with what is happening. Basene-denial. Umntana uyambona uba they don't want to be around new people or new spaces. Ngoku uyamforsa bangena, funeka uqhelile. This is what the world is about, so you need to get used to this. Abayiqondi uba they're doing more damage to that. I mean by exposing them to stuff that they're not comfortable with. But it's always good to work first with the parent. We give them toolkits, stuff that they can use to advance in knowledge yabo on this subject. Abanye ke, it's so nice, like with the new parents, the young parents, they come to you, they're already equipped. Acho umuntu uba bendikhe ndenze research before I came
Wonderful.
here, and ndiyayazi uba kuthi, and I've noticed umntanam uthi. It's so nice to work with abazali abanjalo aba-proactive and parents that are willing to take advice, because sometimes umuntu ibangathi you are criticizing i-parenting yabo.
Uzojaja umntana
Uyayibona by telling them that there's a problem here that they need to attend to.
Denial. Parents, teachers, there is an occupational therapist. There is a field called occupational therapy to assist us uzosikwazi udilishana nee-challenges zabantwana bethu. Senoba mhlawumbi uyacotha uhamba, uyacotha uthetha, uyacotha esikolweni akazigqibi i-homework and so on, iseno-signify i-disease loo nto leyo. Zonke ezo zinto sithethile ngazo namhlanje through the mouth of uThabisa Mbiza, who is our occupational therapist privately. And stick to your screen. Next time, it's a head to toe with Dr. T, kuMpuma Kapa TV, qho ngemivulo, 7:30. Apile Communications, that's where you can follow us. Thank you so much.